Hello, in this video I'm going to discuss the derivations that were due for homework recently. So they are derivations 1.6, LRS 58, 59, and 60. So if you had any trouble with these, I would recommend that you open up the derivations module and follow along with me, and I think that will help you to locate any trouble you might have had and to see what to do. Okay, so we have derivation 1.6 LRS 58 open, and so far nothing has happened. So the first thing we're going to do is hit enter, which is going to give us our first line. And over here we're going to write show, and we want to write then whatever the conclusion is. And the conclusion is what comes after the three dots up here, and that means that the conclusion is Q. So we're going to write show Q. So what we want to do on every first line is we create a new line by hitting enter, we write show, and then we'll write whatever the conclusion is. And then we hit enter to get a second line, and you'll see that this line is indented now, and that when we're on this line and that show gets highlighted, and that tells us that that's what we're now trying to show. So our goal is to get to Q. So having started our derivation with a show line, we now want to do the next step, and the next step is to bring in our premises. So we will write PR over here in the justification column and hit enter, and we'll choose either premise. We'll just choose them in order. So first we'll choose P, and we'll do that again, and we will choose if P then Q, and there we go. If we check, are there any more premises? No, we have all of our premises in the derivation. So good. We've completed the second stage. So first stage was the show, the conclusion. Second stage was enter the premises with PR. And now we're at the third stage where we want to use our inference rules to get us to our conclusion, and that conclusion is the fourth stage. So the only inference rule we really have right now is modus ponens. So we want to look and see, do we have what we need for modus ponens? And if we do find what we need, what modus ponens applies to, then we'll apply it. So modus ponens says if you have a conditional, so an arrow sentence, and you have the antecedent of the conditional, whatever comes before the arrow, then you can apply MP. That's what you apply MP to. You apply it to a conditional plus the antecedent of the conditional. And when you have those two, you can write something else down. And that's the only time you can apply MP. You have to have the conditional and its antecedent, and if you do, then you can apply MP. So if we look at lines 2 and 3, those being the only lines we have, we can't use line 1 because it's a show line. So we look at lines 2 and 3, and indeed on line 3 we have a conditional, if P then Q. Its antecedent is P. And if we look on line 2, we see, oh, there is P. So on line 3 we have a conditional, and on line 2 we have the antecedent of that conditional, and so we can apply modus ponens. So we'll write 2, 3, MP. It can be caps or not, it doesn't matter. Right now we're not actually thinking even about what we're going to get from MP. It's just whenever we can apply MP, we want to, because it will give us something new, and for all the derivations that we're going to be doing, it's going to move us towards what we need to complete the derivation. And in this case, it will just give us what we need to complete the derivation. So we look at Q, we think, well, what can I do with Q? And we might notice, oh, well, Q is actually our goal, what we're trying to get to, and so we want to go ahead and tell the program that Q is our goal. And so we'll say on line 4 we have Q, and we'll apply direct derivation, DD, to line 4, and that will box and cancel line 1. So just like when we apply modus ponens to 2 and 3, we get a new rule, or we get a new line. When we apply DD to line 4, we get to box and cancel line 1, and we get to apply DD to line 4 because on line 4 just is the conclusion. So we have our two other steps. We apply our inference rules, and we're going to be learning more inference rules as we proceed, of course, but right now the only one we have is MP, so we apply MP. And we look for all the situations where we can apply MP. And in this case, there's just this one, P and P arrow Q, and it gives us Q. And then we say, oh, good, that's what we need to complete the derivation. So we box and cancel, and in this case, we'll use DD. So far, that's the only method we've learned. We'll learn others, but right now, DD is our only method. So those are our 4 steps. We want to show the conclusion. We want to enter the premises with PR, all of them. We then look to apply our inference rules, and in this case, it's just MP. So we're always looking for conditional plus antecedent, and then we apply MP to that. And finally, eventually, when we get to the conclusion, we say there is the conclusion, and we box and cancel using DD. And to do that, we write down the line number on which we have the conclusion, and then we write DD, So we're applying DD to that line, and when we do, the result is that the show line is boxed and canceled. So let's just take a look at some more derivations that are going to follow this same pattern. So again, we'll write show, and we look for the conclusion, and that's whatever comes after the 3 dots, and in this case that's T, so we'll just write T and hit enter. Gives us our new line. Our next stage, let's see, so if we remember, what were our 4 stages? It was show the conclusion, enter the premises with PR, and we want to enter all of the premises. And then we'll apply MP as much as we can. Eventually that will get us to our conclusion, and once we get the conclusion, when we find the conclusion, we apply DD once we reach the conclusion, and applying DD to the conclusion on the line that we get it at will box and cancel the show line. So we've done the first thing, we've shown the conclusion, now we want to enter all the premises with PR. And you can write PR, and then if you write the number of the premise immediately after the R with no space, then it will enter in the first premise for you. So PR1 is going to put in premise 1. That's the first premise. Remember, the premises are the sentences before the 3 dots and that are separated by the periods. So we'll write, now we'll try PR2, and PR2 is R. Now we'll try PR3. The third premise is if S then T, we'll try PR4, and aha, we see there is no premise 4. One reason to do it with the numbers instead of just PR is because it lets you skip that window. Also, you can make sure you've entered all the premises. You just keep doing PR1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on until it says there is no premise 4, and then you know, I've entered all the premises. Okay, so now we've done stage 1, we've shown show the conclusion line. Stage 2, we've entered all the premises using PR. Now we're going to use our inference rules. The only inference rule we have is MP, so we're going to see if we can find MP applications. So we're going to look, and we see, well, okay, on line 2, I have R arrow S. On line 3, I have R, and on line 4, I have S arrow T. So I want to see if I have the antecedent of, I have 2 conditionals on line 2 and 4, R arrow S and S arrow T. So now we want to see, okay, we're looking for MP, so we want to see, can we find the antecedent of either of those conditionals? So the antecedent of line 2 is R, so we want to see if we have R anywhere. And we do, we have R on line 3. So on line 2 we have a conditional, on line 3 we have its antecedent, and so we can do 2, 3, MP. And what is that going to give us? It gives us S, which is the consequent of line 2. Now that we've used line 2, we've done MP with it, we're not going to use it again because we'd only just get S back again. So we're done with line 2. We want to see, well, maybe we're at the conclusion. Right? If we're in the previous derivation, we had to do MP only once. That was nice. So let's see if we're at the conclusion. Well, the conclusion in this case, if we look on line 1, it says show T, so the conclusion is T. So we want to see, can we find T anywhere by itself? And if we look, we say, do I have T anywhere? No, I have R arrow S, R, S arrow T, and S. So as of yet, we don't have the conclusion, and so we're not done. We cannot apply DD to box and cancel the show line. So given that we cannot do that, we want to see, well, maybe I can apply more inference rules. That's really the only other option we have. So we've used line 2, but we haven't used line 4. Line 4 is S arrow T, and we can do MP with line 4 if we have its antecedent. And its antecedent is S, and look, there's S on line 5. So we can say, oh, on line 4 and 5 we have a conditional and its antecedent, so we can apply MP to lines 4 and 5, separating them out and writing them before the MP. We hit enter, and we get T. Oh, well, that we just remember is what we need to complete the derivation. We're trying to get to the conclusion. The conclusion is T. We have T on line 6, so what do? We apply DD to line 6 because we say, meaning there on line 6 is the conclusion of the derivation of the argument, and that will box and cancel line 1. So we apply DD to line 6, box and cancels line 1, and again we have our successfully completed derivation. Let's look at the last one. Oops, let's get rid of that work. Okay, so again we're going to say, first step, show the conclusion. Second step is enter the premises with PR. Third step is inference rules, right now just with MP. And the fourth step is box and cancel once we get there with DD, once we get to the conclusion. So we're going to write show, and we look at the derivation, the argument, excuse me, at the top, and we find the conclusion by looking for the 3 dots. We see the R is what's after the 3 dots, so we write show R. So we've done the first step. Second step, we're going to enter all the premises. So we'll say PR1, PR2, PR3, PR4, PR5, and we are done. There is no premise 5. So that means we've entered all of the premises. So now we go to the third stage, which is looking for opportunities to apply our inference rule modus ponens. And so the way we really want to do that is we want to say, where are our conditionals? And in this case, that's 2, 3, and 5. We want to ask, what to do modus ponens with a conditional, we need the antecedent of the conditional. So we want to ask, what are their antecedents? And you can write this out in the derivation like I'm doing. You can also write it out on a piece of paper. What are their antecedents? Well, in this case, the antecedent of line 2 is Z, the antecedent of line 3 is Q, and the antecedent of line 5 is P. So we have Z, Q, and P are their antecedents. Not their antecedents, their antecedents. Ooh, there we go. And so now we know what the antecedents are. Now we want to see if we can find them. So let's see. Do we have Z, Q, or P by itself? And if we look on line 4, we see, oh, I have Z by itself. So that means we're in position to do modus ponens, right? We ask, do we have any of them? And the answer is yes. We have Z by itself on line 4. So we can do Z. We can put Z and Z arrow P together with modus ponens. We can apply modus ponens to Z and Z arrow P. So that's 2 and 4 modus ponens, right? Because here's the Z on line 4, and there's the Z and the antecedent of line 2. So we're going to say 2, 4 modus ponens, and we get P. Now we want to see, okay, maybe we're done. Maybe we've done all we need to. Are we? Well, the conclusion is R. So in order to box and cancel, we need R. And if we have R, then we can box and cancel. But we don't have R by itself, so we cannot box and cancel yet. That means we need to continue with our inference rule applications. We've used line 2 now, so it's going to be just 3 and 5 that we're going to use. So we want to do modus ponens with 3, in which we can do if we get Q, but we don't have Q yet. If we look, we see we don't have Q by itself. Or if we look at line 5, we have a conditional whose antecedent is P, and that means we want to do modus ponens with P in line 5 if we have it, and we do have it. We have, in fact, P on line 6 right beneath line 5. So we can say, oh good, 5, 6 modus ponens, because that's a conditional PRQ, and its antecedent P on lines 5 and 6. We get Q. Okay, can we box and cancel yet? No, what we need to box and cancel is R, and we still don't have R, so we still cannot box and cancel. So that means we need to continue with our inference rule applications with modus ponens. So we look, we say, oh, well, where are the conditionals? 2, 3, and 5. We've used 2 and we've used 5. So the only conditional we have not yet used yet is 3, and it's Q arrow R. So its antecedent is Q. So we want to see, do we have Q? And in fact, we do have Q. We just got Q. We have Q on line 7. So we have a conditional on line 3, and the antecedent of that conditional on line 7. So we can again apply modus ponens to 3 and 7, and we get R. And R is the conclusion. That is what we've been looking for. And so now we can say, good, we're done. We're going to apply modus ponens to line 8. We're not quite done until we execute this command. We say apply modus ponens to line 8, and please box and cancel line 1. And we do so, and now we've completed the derivation. So it's just this, show the conclusion, enter the premises, do the inference rules, and once we finally get to the conclusion, box and cancel. And to do the inference rule applications, we just need to find the places where we can apply the inference rules. And how do we do that? Well, right now our only inference rule is MP. So we need a conditional and the antecedent of that conditional. So we just look, we say, where are the conditionals, where are their antecedents? And when we find them, we do MP with them. And we just keep doing that until we're done and we get to the conclusion. And we'll see that we're going to be getting more inference rules as we proceed. And so this step will get a little bit more involved, but it's going to be the same basic idea. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope you found this helpful.